Hi, welcome everyone to the latest European Shiatsu Congress webinar. I'm so happy to be able to introduce Rita Grisha she's from Germany, but she's living in Spain, and she spent a lot of time in England. And Dinah, my colleague, is going to be sorting out the chat. She's going to actually mute her camera at the moment now, but just say hi in the chat and tell us where you're from. Meanwhile, I'll play the intro video from the ESC.
Oh, yeah.
So just say hi in the chat and tell us where you're from. Okay, really looking forward to the European Shiatsu Congress in September. And we've got people from all over the world as usual. So that's really cool. And these are in partnership, New Energy Work and the European Shiatsu Congress. Okay, I've got a couple of slides here just introducing you. Rita.
Thank you very much.
You've been doing Shiatsu for 30 years, and you're the founder of Mindful Touch Shiatsu, which is MTS. I'm sure you'll be sharing more about that with us today. And you're interested in the neuroscience of touch and mindfulness. They're very hot topics at the moment, so they're really great. It'd be really great to see how you're using them. And you've also got this artistic aspect for self-expression in the therapeutic process. So there's a bit of science and a bit of art there combined. And so now what I'll do is I'll put up your slides and I'll hand over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Cliff, and good evening, everybody. Well, this is quite a challenge for me to talk in public like this. And Cliff, just one question. Do I have to tell you when to take the next slide, to do the next slide?
If you want to, or you can do it yourself. I don't mind doing it for you at all.
How do I do that?
If you just tell me.
Oh, okay, great.
Just with the arrows, yeah.
With the arrow,
yeah.
Okay. So.
That's it.
Yes.
You got it.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay. So this is the question I would like to ask. Are we losing touch? A question that concerned me already before the pandemic started, and I wrote an article about that, which I wanted to share, and that's a handout which you can give to all the participants later on. I mean,
yeah.
who would have thought that that we would have to live like we have been over the last 2 months, with masks, with gloves, with walking down the street, waving to our friends and not being able to get closer than 2 meters and giving each other a hug. So much is going on the global level. So much is putting the finger that something is happening with our human species and on our planet, really. So there has been a before and an after, which I can resonate with, and I've been reflecting upon that as well in my life. So a before and an after I have experienced 3 times in my life. The first one was 1985, when I went to Old Street, to the East-West Center, to an open day of the British School of Shiatsu, and I saw Ray Ridolfi practicing, and it just came towards me. Shiatsu does this, it just hits you in your being. And that's what it was like, that's what I want to do. And from that onwards, it has been part of my life. It's been a companion, and yes, it's been part of my life since then. The second one has been the birth of my son, being a mum. And the third one has been 2003, when I was given my first mobile. And I remember exactly the impact it had on me when I switched on. I was working in an office interpreting, and how it hit my hara, my uterus. And I thought, ooh, this is very different. So I might be very sensitive, but it could have been because I was doing a lot of shiatsu at the time as well. But that is how it impacted me, and I didn't forget that. So...
Did you say your first mobile phone?
Yes, my first mobile phone was given to me because I was working in a situation for 6 months, and I needed to use a mobile for that reason. And I remembered the impact of it. I felt it in my hara. Yes. So I want to talk about touch. Why touch? Well, we humans, we thrive on warmth. That's why I, for example, I'm living in Spain. I love being here and I love this culture. And because touch is a powerful force in human development. I'm a teacher. I work with children more now than before. And I can see that touch is a powerful force in their development. It's our universal language we use as a species from when we were born until old age. It shapes our cognitive and emotional regulation, as well as communication. So we are part of a social species, and pro-social emotions have been shown to promote well-being of the group, to connect, to bond. Bondage is at the source of our well-being. So touch makes us human, and human connectivity and effective social touch is at the core of our positive health. So the sense of touch is intrinsically emotional. We do not need scientific research for that. I mean, we all know that. A pat on the back, holding hands, stroking over your arm, over your head. These are everyday gestures we use for human communication, for social communication. Also cueing is also part of that. We relate to each other through and with our bodies and from our bodies. And in our evolutionary continuum, it has been our hands that had the main function of bringing up into a vertical position, and the other one, I mean the motor function, and the other one that uses the fingertips and the hands for sensory things. So our hands are very, very important for us. Touch communicates. Yes, it's fundamental for expressing care, compassion, love, empathy. It's at the core of our human connection. So the poll I would like to do, which relates later on when we look at the results in relation to another one, I would like to know whether you think that society enables us to touch enough. I mean, right now it's quite a question, but I just want to say in a general way, and that relates to something I want to go back to in a few slides. So do you think society enables us to touch often enough?
You might find there's a cultural difference actually, Rita, because I know in some cultures, in Greece,
there are different people from different cultures here as well. And I will compare that later on with something that is related to a touch that they have been doing.
While the results coming in, we've got 69.
I want to go on a bit. So,
do you want to have a look at the results? Have you seen the results of the poll?
No, not yet. So,
okay.
But I mean, it's interesting. This question is interesting because I mean, 2 years ago we had the first loneliness minister being appointed in England. We also have bottle shops popping up as franchise. There is a need in society. Something is bubbling, and something is pressing the button that is saying, "Listen, something is not right." So, and actually, if we look at the statistics of mental health in relation to what's going on with children, I mean, kids as young as 5 suffer stomach aches, headaches, insomnia, eating disorders, depression, and the curve in happiness is going down. This is what the latest statistics say of the Belief in Children by Barnardo's. It's very interesting when you look into that, and that's only a year ago, not looking at the situation right now. And obviously, the way we live, the way we work and relate to each other is shifting as a result of moving towards a unified digital society. I mean, more than 4 hours a day facing a screen is something that's happening now with preschoolers. But I mean, preventing children and young people from using social media is not an appropriate solution anymore, given all the benefits it has. However, it is vital to preserve human touch in order to truly thrive. Our children need us in our digital society, in our digital world. They need other human beings to learn to be human. And it is this generation, the next generation, is the first generation that has not lived without devices. So
that's true.
I think that's very important. And depending on the circumstances at home, children are often left to their devices, as parents are too busy working or in their own devices. So these are situations that we have to look into. And the devices, they don't only change what we do, they transform who we are in our human connection. So social media can have a detrimental impact on children and young people's mental health. Yeah, there's anxiety, depression, body image concerns, etc., even suicide. So time spent on devices is time not spent actively exploring the world and relating fully. And I mean, it was Linda Stone who brought in the first name of continuous partial attention. That means tuned out parents, they are less emotionally attuned to their child because they're at the same time on their devices. And this year in January, a study in Switzerland has come out in relation to mothers using mobiles while they're breastfeeding and whether they're having their baby and when they're having their baby on the chest. And the study just says very, very clearly, babies have stress. And so when we break the communication through these devices, then something is happening in us. There's something happening in us. And I remember Jane Goodell. I mean, I love her, the expert on primates. And she's saying, you know, have we lost wisdom? Are we losing wisdom? And we, as Shiatsu practitioner, we are wisdom holders. So I want to come back to that later. So effective touch is the foundation of human development and of culture. And that is now receiving interest in studies. This is now coming down in newer research in relation to how digital devices affect us, how touch can be brought into that. And we are talking about 50% of non-mandate of touch at schools. And that is quite a long time that has programmed us to the extent that the recent survey with teachers shows that teachers are too scared to touch children because they might feel that they're doing something wrong. It's just gone so far. It's just gone so far.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know in lots of countries they're not allowed to. I know in the US they're actually not allowed to touch the children because of the whole abuse thing, and it's just so sad that it's got like that.
But not just in the States. I think
no,
UK,
it's the same in England.
Anglo-American system has 50 years of non-mandate of touch, and it's like neuroscientists like Francis McLone from the University of Liverpool. He's somebody that has really studied touch in the last 20 years. He's saying we have demonized touch to the extent that now at schools, you know, I mean,
yeah, I know.
Bring their arms up.
Yeah.
So let me have a look. I'll go a little bit more in relation to that. So we humans are very special because we can read and write. And the ability to do so is not part of our neural wiring. Every generation has to learn that anew. And when we do, it rearranges the way our brain works, how our brains are built. And that's where it really gets interesting. So the media we use to carry the messages have a lot to do with how those neural pathways get developed. The medium shapes the message, but even more so, importantly, it shapes the brain. So if touch shapes the brain, or is a medium and part of our language of communication, how does it shape our brain? How does different touch forms shape our brain? How does touching a PC and a tablet and a phone affects the neural wiring in comparison to touching with our fingertips? All that is now part of the research. And what does this do to our perception? In other words, what is the grammar? What is the vocabulary? What is the grammar of touch? And how can we teach that? Is that desirable?
Mm.
So this is where I now want to have a look what the answers are, because the touch.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So the results were, we had 85% of the audience vote, and we had 66% said no. It doesn't allow us to touch enough. 15% said yes, and 19% were not sure.
Well, that's
So
very interesting,
yeah.
because Goldsmiths College, together with BBC4, started the touch test last year, or this year.
Yeah.
And they the results will come at the end of August, which will be fantastic for the Congress. And this is the result. This is the overall result, the first result they put out. So they say 53%, and Shiatsu practitioners say 60%.
67%.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? That's very.
It's very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And only 19% of us are not sure, and 30% said maybe in your poll here on the slide. So, yeah, no, there's definitely Shiatsu practitioners. Certainly on this webinar, people out there, you definitely are concerned there's not enough touch. So that's a good thing.
Well, I live in Spain, and here Spanish culture is very touchy. It's just very normal to kiss, to hug, to hold hands while you're talking. It's just part of the culture, and the kids do it. The kids do it at school, whether they're in Spanish school, whether they're in international schools. That's how it is. It's the culture. I think from the responses we had on with the early webinars we did, helping Shiatsu practitioners work online, I remember lots and lots of comments from those countries, like in Greece and those countries that have a lot of touch. I think they emotionally felt it very hard, the whole distancing thing. Yes.
Whereas Northern European, especially the British, we don't go in for that sort of thing very much anyway. So okay.
No, I mean, for me, and to be honest, I've been on my own all this pandemic time. At the beginning, I was, oh, great, I'm doing a retreat. I was asking Cassie even more, thinking like, oh, I do my retreat, I do my meditation, I do my practices and so on. I was quite enjoying it the first weeks, just to being on my own in retreat and just leaving out the noise. So,
yes.
So how is it? What do I want to say? Yes, I feel that we are at a very important point in human evolution right now, as we're expecting more from technology and less from each other in a society. And I think it is Eric Pickersfield, an artist, a photographer, who puts it in his photographies, which he calls Removed, very clearly. He took photos of people and took out the devices, and he shows us what is happening to our human condition. Just the three, but I mean, ignored, separated, hunched up. But what is removed is the question. It's a good question here to ask, Well, as a result of doing a research project in a school here in Spain, I looked into a lot of research that has been done. And it's a very interesting area of research, a very new one in the last 15 years or 20 years, more or less, where there is more interest in touch, in particular in embryology, human development, psychology and social science, developmental cognitive neuroscience, which involves the haptics, education, and perhaps something in relation to human evolutionary continuum. So that has been very interesting for me, and I just selected a few things. So for me, when I did my seminars with Susanna Yates in relation to pregnancy, childbirth, and all that, I remember her talking about that, but it didn't hit me that so much at that time. Then when I was studying, I suddenly, oh my goodness, I mean, it's 2 weeks. It's an ovum of 2 weeks, blastula, and from the 3 germ layers, we develop the skin and the nervous system from the same material. And it says in embryology that the earlier function develops, the more fundamentally it is likely to be. I mean, that's amazing. I felt really happy about that. like,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
yes. So, and the other one was Harry Harlow in 1958. Harry Harlow was a scientist and also, how do you call it? How do you call him? He was the president of the Association of Psychology, of the American Psychological Association. And in the 1950s, 85, he did studies with rhesus monkeys. And he's the father, really, that changed parenting and the understanding of affection. I mean, he pioneered the science of affection and modern parenting, because he found out by doing these controversial experiments with the rhesus monkeys, giving them surrogate mothers, like a mother that just gives food and another mother that just gives the idea of cloth with some warmth behind it. Also some monster mothers. But I mean, what he found out is that the babies prefer to cuddle than to feed themselves.
Wow.
So they hugged this surrogate mother. And I found it very moving as well from Harry Harlow, because the seminar paper he did on it, he called it The Nature of Love. He says that he understood so much about us and about love by watching this rhesus monkey cuddling to this cloth. Yeah. So that changed our outlook in psychology and social science, really. And the other one, another book that is not very well known in the Anglo-American tradition, which is a book by a French psychoanalyst. His name is Shiatsu. His book is called The Skin Ego, which fascinated me when I was studying art and got involved in working with skin and layers and stuff like that. And it was him who brought the body into psychoanalytical world and considered the skin as the psychic envelope. I mean, looking into this book, looking into some of the paper is fascinating. And he, together with Ashley Montagu, who wrote the book on touching, the human experience of touch, both communicated about the importance of the mind and the body and the body and the mind, the development of the psyche as a result of the first experiences after birth, the attachment, the physical care you receive from the mother. But Hongzhou studied in particular clinical studies also of mental health and so on, and derived all his findings from that. It's a very, very fascinating book. And obviously that developed later on into all the theories of attachment and Bowlby's theory on detachment. And then that was 1974. So 1958, Harrow, 1974, The Skin Ego and Different Developments in Psychology. And then the big outcry, world outcry in 1989, when the orphanages were opened, when Romania opened the doors to its orphanages, and were done on the deprivation of, it was about 100,000 children in orphanages, just rocking themselves, staring into nowhere. Yes, it was an outcry in the world, and a lot of people started to adopt children. What they found out as a result of that, because this has really changed neuroscience and understanding of development, is that yes, if there is such deprivation, it causes mental health problems, to the extent that children that have lived in strong deprived situations develop a smaller brain. They have impaired growth and impaired cognitive development. Memory is a big problem. Social behavior as well. I mean, it's just part of the protective behavior that they might, bring their attention to negative social behavior. They have found out that it causes increased autism spectrum if there is a lot of deprivation, and 7 times more likely to have ADHD. There are 3 studies that have been related to that from Harvard University, University of Southampton. The sources are there, and also in the paper that I'm doing the handout with. So, oh, you see, this is now the old paper. There are some slides which are not in the right order. But anyway, so as a result of all that, I went also into studying more haptics, anything to do from skin receptors, nerves.
What does human haptics actually mean? I'm not sure exactly what it means.
Everything to do with our hands. What do we do with our hands, and what happens when you touch, and what effect that has? Because in our hands we have lots of skin receptors. In particular, in the fingertips, that's where most receptors are. Yes. And you also have, and those travel up the nerves, up the elevator of the spine to an area of the brain which is called the somatosensory cortex, where all these sensory inputs are being registered. And that I didn't want to say. So when you look at skin, if you look at skin, you can have hairy skin and you can have non-hairy skin, glabrous skin. So for example, this is what I do in my class, or this is what I developed with the program I'm doing, Children explore hands with magnifying glasses. They look at the fingertips, they look at the top, they look at the arm, and they see that there are hairs, that there are little openings in the skin. And then with the touch practices, we also understand what is happening to us when we touch, what is happening in our brain, what does it do to us. And it's very interesting what the brain does as a result of it, because the brain maps our touch in the somatosensory cortex. And scientists have developed what they call a homunculus, a little person that shows how important certain parts of the body are in our brain, and how much it's like a map of the brain brought into 3 dimension. So it shows how important the hands are for us, how important the lips are for us. But in other parts of the body don't have as many skin receptors that are so representative in the brain. What I found so funny is, this drawing from a student from early years, how important the hands are there for her,
Yes, very similar, isn't it?
Yes, very, very similar. And if you think about these fingertips in our, these receptors in our fingertips, this is why blind people can read faster than we can, because the receptors are so fast, the messages shoot up to the brain so fast that they read in braille much faster than we do a book or on screen.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's why safe crackers, they rub down the tips of their fingertips, so when they go to the safe, they can listen to it better. This is how sensitive the fingertips are in our body, which I thought was, is also it's very interesting. So let's do a bit of rubbing of our hands if you want. Just to get us a little bit down into the next part. So just rub your hands and just listen to it. Just bring it to your ears. You can try slowly or faster, but bring your ear to it as well. So you're working with 2 senses at the same time. Moving up, just gently touching it. See how far you go to you, so you can still listen to it. these are sort of little practices I might do suddenly in a class to bring children back to their senses, because this is what I really fascinated with, to work with the senses, with the children. That's the only way I feel where we can. Anyway, I will go into that later.
Yeah.
So neuroscience has found out that there are different types of nerve fibers that relate to different types of touch and have different effects. And the effects in particular with the CT efferents, which is a nerve fiber that relates to very, very slow touch. They have found out that this is what children preferred. So let's try that on ourselves. It's like the speed of the touch is like 3 centimeters per second, produces the most oxytocin in the brain. And this is why children prefer stroking, gentle stroking down the arm or down the head or down the back.
Yeah.
And they snuggle against you. They just, if you do it to yourself, there might be even some memories that come up to you that reminds you of when you're being stroked very gently by somebody who loves you. Yes, most children respond to that kind of touch more positively and it's more relaxing. It's a more relaxed.
Yeah.
So we're good in time. Yes, we're good in time.
Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah, you're halfway through. Time's flying. Always does fly very quickly.
Yeah, but I was a bit scared that it might be too much. And
no, it's fascinating
to talk about, and it might be too heady. But I hope you're still quite grounded at the moment.
Well, we can ask them. Everyone happy? Do you want to put a thumbs up in the chat?
It'd be nice to get
If it's not too much for you, do you want to put a thumbs up? And then you get a nice bit of feedback. Oh, look, you've got a few hearts there as well.
Do I have to push the button to chat to see that?
Yeah, just press the chat button. Okay. You'll see it. Yeah, you've got quite a few hearts. They love it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so
for me, it was so fun. I went so much into my head last year by reading so much articles and books and stuff like that. It was sometimes overwhelming, but it was so enriching to understand in the end a bit more from the Western side, the Western science of what I know from Shiatsu. I love Shiatsu. Yeah, I know it works. There's just no doubt about it. We know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is, what does Western science say? We need to bring it together. And in our world, and in particular with the research book that I had to do in the school, I also need to show from the Western point of view that this is working. And this is why I think combining Eastern knowledge, Western science for 21st education will be fantastic. So
yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's a great idea. Totally, yeah.
So
absolutely.
This is my mission. So
yeah,
the project I did was in a Spanish school, and the objective was to analyze the effects of mindful touch in early years and in children in the transition stage from infant to primary school. And
wow.
I was told that the children in the transition stage, that is a very traumatic time for children to go from infant school to primary school. They're going to the big school. They're becoming big.
Yeah.
And that's quite a
I
traumatic.
can remember.
Yeah. It's quite
I can remember it.
Time, and that reduces later on to other phases as well. So this transition is very important. You remember that? How did you remember that?
I can just remember it being a bit of a real, it's just a big, just the buildings were different. The buildings were, the thing I remember mostly was the space, like the very early years was all like play and very low and everything. And then suddenly you went to these buildings that were much taller. They had lots of floors and they just seemed very overwhelming when you're very small. That's the main thing I can remember, the building, funnily enough, when I think about it. But it definitely is a big transition. Yeah. You suddenly have to feel like you feel like you have to be suddenly grown up much more grown up.
I noticed that in some of the children at the school where I was, which I saw this year then when they had moved into primary. But before they went into primary, they had a sort of a phase where they could go into primary, and they were in the infant school as well. But they came running back to the playground of the infant school. They just preferred that. The other one was too big. It was too anonymous. It was, wow, there's so much space, you know. They felt so lost in it. I really felt for them, yes. So that was very interesting. Oh, hold on a minute. Well, I could actually talk about that. So I was given the results of a survey in January 2019, where the children were surveyed in relation to their feelings about school, in their preparedness for learning, in their learners' self-worth, and in their response to learning, and then an overall rate. So these were the results of the 2 classes for that. That is the whole group result. And I developed a program of 12 lessons. I had 1 lesson per week, which 2 target groups. The 2 target groups were the children that have popped up in this survey in the red and orangey scale of green, yellow, orange, and red. And it was half of the class. It was half of the class, more or less, that had very low self-worth. And they were asking me, let's see if something of touch would help them if I do practices with them. So I developed a program. And as I saw how the school was teaching the children as well, I tried to also adapt, and I learned a lot of how to prepare the lessons, how to integrate other aspects of working with the senses before I work actually with touch. So I have developed a progress of 6 lessons, which is the first model, and then another 6 lessons of another one. And the result of it, in the end, of 1 lesson a week was that the target groups improved from 1.42 as an average group to 10.96, and the other class to 36.73 from 22.76. And the non-target group actually went further down to a minus number, and this one as well to a minus number. My group had improved a lot. The non-target, or the other children who had not been part of this project, they've gone down. And on an overall level, the half of the class which I've worked with have pulled up the overall rating as well of actually the class. So that was very interesting. And the kids came running to the classes. When are we doing again? When are we going to do again? Mindful touch, when are we doing it again? But I mean, the project was not just working with touch. I did a lot of other things as well with them. But this is coming here. This is from Francis McLone, a neuroscientist. He's fantastic. He's a lot on podcasts. You need to have a look at his videos. He's brilliant. He also studied the peer group massage in England when it was introduced in the school. And he's absolutely in favor of doing research in education and bringing touch into schools. So we've got to back up. So, yes, why at school the mind needs the body? There's still a lot of mind in the school, a lot of writing down, a lot of sitting down, and the mind doesn't really dwell only in the brain, but travels the whole body on caravans of hormones and enzymes, busily making sense of the compound wonders we catalogue as touch, taste, smell, hearing, and vision. Somebody that works with embodied cognition, and something I really appreciate when he said that. So that's as far as I am so far. I haven't done much practice so far with you, but there's a video, and then there is an introduction also, or a little bit about the mindful touch program, which I would like to do.
Great. So do you want me to play?
Sorry?
Shall I play the video now? Do you want me to play the video?
Is there any feedback in the chat? Are there any questions?
Let's find out. There's not any questions so far
Okay.
about what you've presented. Yes, but if anyone has got any questions so far, then you can always put them in. We'll mark them up. Dinah will mark them up as a question.
Okay, how can I teach in American schools? Yes, yeah. Okay.
Can we? So Jane wants to see the previous slide again. The quote of why the mind needs the body. That one, yeah. Okay.
Why the
Yeah.
mind needs the body? Because
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah. I want to see that again.
do I need to go back? I don't understand why the mind.
No, she just wants to have another look at it. No, that I think it was the one you just showed. Yeah,
This one?
that one. That's it. Yeah, yeah. And Suzanne, she's obviously from America, says, "How can I teach that in American schools?" That's the problem, isn't it? Because
Yes,
it's
you
just
can,
impossible at the moment.
because for example, the program I have developed, it is not that teachers touch the children, it is the children teach each other. It is a program that works with a group, and it works in pairs, and it works with a lot of creativity, and it works with touch practices, it works with exercises, it works with visualization, it works with clay, it works with felt. It works with,
That's interesting.
I
Yes.
work with a clay field, I work with felt, and it's amazing how much the children need to learn haptic human skills. They do this. They love immersing themselves into working with their hands, because what happens when we work with our hands? We are focused, we are connected, our brain is quieter. We're getting more in touch with ourselves. And when we're more in touch with ourselves, we're calming down, we're quieter, we're focused, and we love this learning because it has meaning to us. All the mental thing that is being brought into it, I mean, Carl Rogers called it the jug and muck treatment. You pour it in and you spit it out. This is just not learning anymore, and it doesn't work anymore nowadays. We need embodied learning. That means, for example, the latest study in language teaching is that you need to learn languages via the body.
Yeah.
Foreign languages you learn via the body. It's the best.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially Italian.
And Spanish and English and German. I mean, this is how I teach. But okay, so is there anything else here?
So yeah, there's other things. Lucy says, did you incorporate any acupoints into your program? Just interested if you used any acupoints.
Yes.
You did?
Yes. One little eye, another little eye, two little eyes.
Oh, brilliant.
Little nose in the middle of the hand, and a big, big smile. This is what I do with 2.5 and 3-year-olds.
Oh, that's beautiful. Isn't that fantastic?
I'm actually in the moment doing a project with early years, and I've done, I think, 7 or 8 videos now of teaching children online in the pandemic. But we couldn't do it at school. Yeah. But beautiful work, absolutely gorgeous work. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And of course, as we found out in New Energy Work, you can actually use the medium of online to get into
it's been a
touch thing.
Discovery to me as well. And to overcome the shame of doing things on a video is a big step for me as well. Mm. But I'm doing it and I'm really enjoying it now. And the program will be an online program as much as it will be a presential program.
There we go. Yeah.
So if you,
I think actually,
No.
I think the thing about devices and about how people are separated and stuff like that, it's not so much the actual devices themselves, but it's more social media. I mean, some very interesting books I've been reading lately about surveillance capitalism, about how addictive behavior is built into social media platforms. So it's not so much, I mean, there's no reason why the medium of online can't be used to increase people's touch and their perception, but it's been taken over so much by these very big companies that have got very clever people, getting people addicted to that and getting them drawn in, you know, and I think that's one of the big problems. Zoe, we're going to put the video link in the chat. We're going to show you the video in a minute, so that's fine.
It's only 2 minutes. I mean, we could do that. It just shows a little bit of how I worked with children Not at
Yes,
school,
yes.
just privately, because I mean, these children came to me as a result of being children of mums who've been with me when they were pregnant. So they asked me if I wanted to work with them. And so that some groups were built as a result of that. Do you want to do that? So, or do I upload?
I can play the video now. I've got a couple of other comments. Barbara says, great to see you. You shared a room at the Shiatsu Fachtag, is that, in Germany in 2019 near Kassel. Barbara, she knows you.
Ah, Barbara. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. It's a small world. And this might be a good time to say that we actually know each other. When we did the rehearsal, we found out that not only did Rita come to the Norwich regularly, so we probably passed each other, but also we were hanging out in Old Street in the 80s about the same time. We probably saw each other in that shop there. But not only that, I also found out I actually gave her the Shiatsu Society assessment, which I really didn't know, and I found that a little bit embarrassing.
Yes,
I hope I didn't embarrass her.
Yes.
So it's a very small world, the Shiatsu world.
But well, it was an amazing time in England at that time.
It was the beginning of everything.
Beginning of everything. Really, and I'm so grateful I was able to be there at that time. Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's great. So Alma asked, would a gardening class for kids be able to have a similar effect?
I don't.
Gardening, with plants.
Yes, of course. I bring also gardening into my classes. We touch the big sunflower. We reflected on it. I do painting. It's just touch, art, anything haptic is the most beautiful language you can do with children, and engage with them, because what I found as well is it's a revelation what children bring towards you. You learn from them. Yeah. You learn from them. Yeah. And when they touch, they are so sincere, because they're so mindful. Children are naturally mindful. We all are naturally mindful, but when they do it, they're so mindful. And then you ask them, so what do you want to do? Because you've only had this lesson now. I'm going to share it with my mum and my best friend. I'm going to share it with my friend and my mum. I said, do that. Bring it home. Bring it home to your mum, because they're so stressed. Do a little bit on them, and then you see how they change. On your dad as well. Oh, yes. And the most amazing thing that I told you that the other day, Cliff, a girl, when we did some cheap practice in the class, because I did a lot of I do hand stuff, and so I said, well, how do you feel after this practice then now? And one girl said, agradecida, grateful.
Oh, that's so beautiful, isn't it?
So moving to me. A child of 5 years saying to you, grateful. Yeah. And it's
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Just one other thing. Suzanne asks, have you heard of the Rosen method? Is it anything to do with the Rosen method? Have you heard of that? It's a Swedish method. Do you know that one?
No, I don't actually. No.
No, I have to look that up. It's another book you'll have to read.
How do you spell that? Could you put that into the Rosen method?
Yeah, it's in the question bits. ROZEN.
RZEN. Okay.
Yeah. Rosen. It should be an S. ROSEN.
So it's like rose in German.
Like rose with an N on the end. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Catherine asked, what other things do you do except for touch? But you've already answered that. So should we watch the video? Should we watch the video now?
Yeah. Well, that's only now outside, because I link it also to nature, because that's how I work. I take children out to nature as well, do sculptures and things like that.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, we're going to play the video. It's a 2-minute, 53-second video. It's quite a technical thing to get video piped to all of you all over the world. Sometimes there's a little bit of delay. So we just pray the internet gods. If it doesn't work, don't worry, because we can always give you a link when we send out the recording. But let's try it. It's a 2-minute, 53-second video. So here we go. There we are. That looks good.
To be human means to be emotional, to feel things. We are perceiving beings. For that we need to be in touch with our senses.
It's double.
And the sense that makes us human is the sense of touch. Touch is essential for our mental health. Mindful touch is a pioneering art of haptic interaction and social education. It is rooted in the neuroscience of touch and the Japanese bodywork of Shiatsu. combining Western and Eastern knowledge to help create harmony in ourselves. My name is Rita Grieche. I am German, but I have been living in Spain for nearly 25 years. Our sense of touch is very important for our brain development, for memory, for social behavior and mental health. There is a lot of creativity and experiential learning in practicing mindful touch. Mindful touch is about feeling, connecting and empathizing with the other. When we touch, we are also being touched. It alleviates fear and anxiety, is good for the heart, it sends calming messages to the brain, and it's good for the immune system. As a result, you feel empowered. With the increase in digital advances, the practice of mindful touch is becoming very important for our mental health. Scientific research shows that mindful touch is necessary for brain development, for memory and for social behavior. Mindful touch teaches a child about limits, respect of its own limits and those of others. Children learn about their body, their feelings, their physical coordination. It empowers children and contributes to their self-reward. Mindful touch helps to prevent bullying. And it teaches children how to change tension into relaxation, how to balance between activity and rest. Embedding mindful touch into school life, into family life, positively influences and shapes children's learning, their self-reward, their sense of trust and bonding.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, that's a wonderful video.
Thank you.
Just like,
I haven't put it out yet. I did it last summer, and
oh, that's just so great. I mean, that's just so amazing, isn't it? And I can see by anyone, let's have some responses in the chat. We've got a lot of hearts going on out there.
Thank you.
It's great. And it cleverly disguised Shiatsu. Looks like 90% Shiatsu, but it's like branded as mindful touch. I like that.
Oh, great.
Very nice.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Brilliant. So you're going to get I think this is what I put in here to just remind that we're going to give you a handout.
Which I've just done, yes. So everyone can click on that if they need to. Don't worry if you don't get it, because we'll put it on the European Shiatsu Congress tab on New Energy Work. At the top, we put recordings of the videos up there. So if you go to newenergywork.com, look at the top, there's European Shiatsu Congress. You pull down that menu and you'll see all the recordings of the webinars and any handouts we put there as download. So if you don't catch it now, you can catch it later.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So we've just got just over 5 minutes left. So
brilliant. Okay, well, that's fantastic timing. Okay, so I call what I'm doing now, and this will be my project I'm developing now, into a website, into presential courses and so on. I call it Mindful Touch Education. It's what I want to do. I incorporate everything I've done in my life, and I want to bring it into education as a preventative means to teach children tools as seeds that they have to practice with their friends at home and perhaps at school as well. The project has made me, or has encouraged me, to develop that. And it's like combining Eastern wisdom with Western science for 21st century education. I think education, we need a cultural shift. We need a cultural shift because our human evolutionary continuum is screaming for this. And where we can start is schools. This is where we need to put the seeds, because it's our children that will carry this forward. So the program I've developed is two modules. There's so much material in it, even an 80-page manual with all sorts of exercises, which are on top of the two modules which I have developed. And each lesson has several pages, minutely discussed, audios, videos, slideshow, things you could use in your lessons, materials. I put it all down. You're guided as a teacher to do it first yourself, or you could use it in class, whatever. It's a lot of material, and you will feel touched by what you experience when you do it with the children. So it's an attractive program for schools. And the base is my Shiatsu, but actually it's not Shiatsu I am doing with the children. It's touch. It's it's, I call it human skills. Now I call them human skills, developing. And they learn to develop awareness. And when you develop awareness, your self-worth grows, which is very interesting. The learning is embodied. That's what everybody loves, because it makes sense to you, what you're learning. It is fantastic for self-regulation. It empowers children. It empowers teachers. The relationship between the teacher and the children changes. And when I did the program in the school, the teacher, I sometimes did also other classes, some lessons with them and in activities. She said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to Thursdays when you come to the last lesson. I always feel so good afterwards." Yeah, we all know that, the ripple effects of when you do work. But then when you work with a group of children, I always start with a circle, because it synchronizes the energy in the group. Then we do exercises in the group, in the circle. It's just fantastic work. And I would encourage you to have a look at, this is my dream, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. It's a German statement. I don't know, I found it today and I just put it in. So would love to hear from you. Stay in touch. There is a website, there's a landing page at the moment. We do a special reduction for early bird bookers. The course is out in September, at the beginning of September with the Congress. And just let us know if that is something you might be interested in. And thank you so much. Thank you very much. And thank you very much. Thank you so much, Cliff and team, and fantastic new energy work of making this possible. I was so scared
right
doing
in
this.
our zone, Rita.
Sorry?
It's right in it. It was absolutely fantastic. You had nothing to worry about at all. It was a wonderful webinar. And I think it's just actually new energy work. You may not know, but it was actually founded in 2010 when I was at the Berlin. You do know, because I remember we talked about it. Yeah, the Berlin Energy Medicine Symposium, and that the whole
with Oshman.
That's with Oshman, and that's the whole kind of thing that inspired me back then to do exactly that. To combine the modern science with the traditional techniques, and I'm totally with you on that. I think it's a planetary thing. We really need touch. We really need to have those skills of tuning in, all that internal work and the deep work that comes from the East is just, and to be able to package it like you've done is with that video and with the way you put it together, I think it's really fantastic.
Well, thank you very much.
So accessible. It's a proven method you can show by research. I mean, it's just, who wouldn't want to do that? I mean, I think it's
thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Well
Big
done.
hug.
And okay. Just I'm getting my hands here. Look, my haptics. I'm doing a bit of slow stroking. Look, I feel calm already.
I do practice that actually since I've read about that, and it's quite interesting.
Yes, I think that's very interesting. I'm going to have to look.
3 centimeters per second.
Yeah, it does. It makes you think about a lot of Shiatsu techniques.
Yes, it's absolutely. It matches. I mean, they have the palm, the leaning, these are also other types of touch. We haven't even talked about that. I mean, I worked with a class with 16 different words of touch, and we explored that. And it's just fantastic material. Yes. And you look into negative touch, positive touch, and all that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to see you in Amsterdam. It might be virtual, it might be face-to-face. We don't know yet. And that's anyone's wondering about the European Shiatsu Congress with COVID and everything. Don't worry, because New Energy Work and the European Shiatsu Congress, we're working behind the scenes. We're going to create something amazing for you, whether you can get there or not. but the work, you know, this is just, your work is so brilliant, and it's just been so amazing for me to meet all these Shiatsu people. Some of them that I know, sometimes I remembered. It's been so wonderful to just network with all these amazing people, and you are definitely one of them, Rita.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
You're welcome. Yeah, and thank you, Dinah, for all your work on the chat. I could just see it flying past.
And look, we are on time, and I was thinking, God, this is too much. Fantastic.
No, we're exactly on time.
Very
1
grateful.
hour on the button.
I'm very, very.
You're welcome.
Very, very.
All right. See you in Amsterdam.
Thank you very much. See you in Amsterdam then.